You should have just finished reading James 5, verses 7 to 12. And now in this section, James kind of continues on pleading with believers to be an example of Christ to others in the way that we live our life with patience. And throughout these next couple verses, he kind of gives a definition to what he means by patience. It's not just being patient in our attitude towards other people when someone's frustrating us or getting on our nerves, and so giving them patience in the way that we react to things. But he's also talking about being patient in the way that we live, waiting on the Lord, knowing that Christ is coming, the Lord is near, the Lord is coming. And so living a life that is patient is one that perseveres in our faith. So when he talks about have patience, he's also talking about spiritual patience of persevering in the faith during times that are difficult. So what if there was a worldwide virus that influenced the world state, and there was mandates, and governments were telling people what to do, and families had to make decisions, and schools had to make decisions, and there was a lot of stress and anger and frustration and miscommunication, and people had a lot of complaints about what was going on. How do you think a Christian should live with patient perseverance in a situation like that? Because that's our reality, isn't it? For these believers, the state that they were going through was, what if the government persecutes believers? What if the world hates Christians so much so that people have to flee for their life? Families are attacking their own families because of what they believe, that there's no place for them to stay, or they can't buy food because they're a Christian. Right? These things are also reality in our world today as well. Might not be for us right now, but what we do see happening is that people seem to be growing more and more hostile towards Christians. That means, at least in my experience, maybe for you guys it's different, but I see the world hating Christians because we're intolerant to things, or we're homophobic, or we're called names because we believe in God's word being the only truth, the only way to salvation. We're narrow-minded, or we're unloving to people. And so many people are growing more cold towards the gospel and towards Christians, but we still need to live with patient endurance. So instead of grumbling and complaining and arguing and causing fights and name-calling and slandering people and gossiping about people, we live our life pleading with God to save people. We live in a life that's honoring to God so that he can be effective through our life. That we live with patient endurance, that we're kind and gentle to people. That in situations where we feel like we should be upset or frustrated or stressed out or anxious or nervous or angry and furious, we enter the situation full of God's grace, full of sympathy and empathy towards people, and full of patience and endurance for the faith. And so just as he says, like the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, that farmers, they rely on God to supply the things that they need for things to grow, for their livelihood. And so we rely on Christ. We rely on God to work in and through us, to provide for us, to help us every day. But it's important that we remember, just in verse 8, right? You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord is coming near. One day we will see the Lord face to face, and he is coming. Christ is coming. So let's be encouraged. Let's encourage one another to be patient, to suffer when we need to suffer for the sake of the gospel, but to not curse people, to not swear against God or swear against man, not by heaven or by earth, but let our yes be yes and our no be no. Let's answer in a simple and gentle manner towards people, And let's be gracious and patient with our speech, because I know there's a lot of things being said now. It's just cruel, and it's a lot of anger built up, but there's a way that as Christ can be magnified and glorified through our speech. Right? We need to be careful of those things. We ought not to be just joining in with what everybody's posting on social media or things that are being shared and talked about or joked about. Right? But as Christians, sometimes we have to stand up against what's humorous or what's popular or what's funny, and do what's right. And God can be honored through that. So I have a couple more questions for you guys after watching this video and reading that passage.